Back in December 2022, a copy of the Torah was seized by officials in Turkey. The team said they received a tip that the manuscript was going up for sale, and so quickly moved in to retrieve the artifact before it was sold. The manuscript was expected to make around $1.5 million, and it's because of this that officials have said that these underground networks are working harder than ever to find these types of manuscripts. Diggers are being hired to excavate across various regions throughout the Middle East in the hopes that they come across on these biblical artifacts. In the past, they've been sold for millions of dollars to private investors. During the interrogation at the District Gendarmerie Command, the officers reported that the manuscript had been transported from Istanbul to the district of Giresun. One user on social media said that they were able to translate it, and said that judging by the pages and texts used, it's around 700 to 900 years old. It's likely that investigations will be carried out on the book in order to make sure that it's genuine, and if it is, it will likely be placed away in storage, or may even end up in a museum. Biblical artifacts are objects that have a direct connection to the Bible, its stories, and its characters. They can include ancient scrolls, fragments of pottery, inscriptions, coins, and other items that are mentioned in the Bible, or shed light on the context in which the Bible was written. These artifacts are an essential part of the world's cultural and religious heritage, and they provide valuable insights into the history, society, and culture of the biblical era. Protecting biblical artifacts is important for several reasons. They offer a glimpse into the history of the people and cultures that existed during the time of the Bible. They are valuable sources of information for scholars, researchers, and historians who seek to understand the past and how it has influenced our present. Biblical artifacts can provide insights into the religious beliefs and practices of the people of the time, as well as the evolution of religious thought and practice over time. They help us understand the context in which the Bible was written and the beliefs of those who wrote it. The Bible has had a profound impact on Western civilization and is a foundational text for many cultures and societies. Biblical artifacts are an important part of our shared cultural heritage and can help us connect to the past and our collective history. Many of these artifacts are legally protected by national and international laws, as well as ethical guidelines established by organizations such as the International Council of Museums. These laws and guidelines are in place to prevent the theft, looting, and illicit trade of cultural property, which can have devastating effects on local communities and the preservation of cultural heritage. For many people of faith, biblical artifacts hold great religious significance and are considered sacred objects. Protecting these artifacts is therefore a matter of respecting and honoring religious beliefs and practices. The Torah, the book that we just previously covered that was found in Turkey, is the central text of Judaism, and it is also considered the foundational text of the Abrahamic religions. It is composed of 5 books: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, which together tell the story of the creation of the world, the history of the Jewish people, and the giving of the law at Mount Sinai. The word Torah comes from the Hebrew word meaning instruction or teaching, and the text is believed to have been revealed by God to Moses on Mount Sinai around 3,300 years ago. According to Jewish tradition, the Torah was given to Moses in both written and oral form, and it was passed down through generations of scholars and teachers before being compiled into its final written form. Each of the 5 books of the Torah has a different focus and theme. The book of Genesis tells the story of the creation of the world, as well as the history of the patriarchs and matriarchs of the Jewish people, including Adam and Eve, Noah, Abraham, Sarah, Isaac, Jacob, and Joseph. The book of Exodus tells the story of the Israelites' enslavement in Egypt and their miraculous escape, led by Moses. It also includes the giving of the 10 Commandments and other laws at Mount Sinai. The book of Leviticus contains a detailed system of laws and rituals governing the religious and social life of the Israelites, including rules for sacrifice, purity, and the role of priests. The book of Numbers includes a census of the Israelites and their journey through the wilderness towards the Promised Land, as well as various laws and rituals. The book of Deuteronomy contains a series of speeches given by Moses to the Israelites before they enter the Promised Land, including a restatement of the law and various blessings and curses. The Torah is a foundational text for Jewish theology, law, and practice, and it continues to be studied and revered by Jews around the world. Its teachings have also had a profound influence on Western civilization as a whole, shaping the beliefs and practices of Christianity and Islam as well. Mount Sinai, also known as Mount Horeb, is a mountain located in the Sinai Peninsula of Egypt. It is a significant location in Abrahamic religions, particularly Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. According to the Bible, Mount Sinai is where Moses received the Ten Commandments from God. The mountain is also associated with other important events, including the burning bush that Moses encountered and the place where Elijah received the word of God. In Islam, it is believed that the Prophet Moses received the revelations of the Quran on the mountain. Mount Sinai is a relatively small mountain, standing at approximately 2,285 meters or 7,500 feet. It is part of a larger mountain range that runs through the Sinai Peninsula. The mountain is characterized by its rugged, rocky terrain and is often covered in snow during the winter months. The mountain is accessible by foot, and there are several routes to reach the summit. The most popular route is the traditional Siket el-Bashait path, which starts from the monastery of St. Catherine and takes approximately 3 to 4 hours to reach the summit. There is also a camel trail that can be used to reach the summit. The summit of Mount Sinai offers spectacular views of the surrounding desert landscape. At the top, visitors can find a small chapel that was built in the 6th century by the Byzantine Emperor Justinian. The chapel is called the Chapel of the Holy Trinity and is an important pilgrimage site for Christians. Overall, Mount Sinai is an important religious and cultural site that holds significant historical and spiritual importance for people of many faiths.
The Bible appears to contain coded messages. In 1997, Michael Drosnin, a reporter, published the book The Bible Code. His book discussed some mysteries surrounding the Bible and that it held predictions for historical events, such as the assassination of the Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin, or several comet collisions. Drosnin discussed numerous other theories about how the Bible could predict world-shaping events that happened in his other books within the series. Drosnin was not the only theorist of the secrets of the Bible, but he drew inspiration from a book published in 1994 called Equidistant Letter Sequences in the Book of Genesis by mathematicians Doron Whitstone, Ilya Rips, and Yoav Rosenberg. They argued and presented evidence that the Bible had hidden information and discussed famous rabbis of the past. The method they used to discover these hidden codes and messages is called the equidistant letter sequence. How the technique works is that you pick a starting point in the text, or in this case, the Bible, and then skip a number while selecting letters and skipping the same number of spaces every time. The words selected will sometimes create a word. It may sound confusing, but ELS is efficient if the letters of the text are arranged in an array like they are in the Bible. Timothy Smith is one of the most recent experts to claim that secret messages are hidden within the Bible. His theory derives from using a computer-driven application of the ELS method and his own knowledge to uncover hidden messages. His work is called the Leningrad Codex. That being said, his work has been labeled as biased, as Smith is a Christian and all the conclusions he discovered are related to the religion. At this point, there is no clear evidence that the Bible has hidden messages, but experts are constantly working to unravel any mystery that shrouds the most famous book in the world. What do you think? Are there hidden messages within the text that might have warned us about the tragic events happening in our world?
Back in the year 2000, marine archaeologist Robert Ballard and his team discovered the first evidence of a civilization that may have perished in a great flood of the Black Sea around 5000 BCE. The discovery was made during an expedition to the Black Sea, where they found the remains of an ancient settlement, including human artifacts and evidence of farming, that had been submerged in water. The discovery suggested that the Black Sea was once a freshwater lake that was flooded by seawater from the Mediterranean, leading to the displacement of many ancient communities in the region. This discovery provided new insights into the region's ancient history and how environmental changes can impact human civilization. The Great Flood of the Black Sea, also known as the Deluge, is a natural disaster that is believed to have occurred around 7,500 years ago. The event is thought to have been triggered by the melting of the ice caps, which caused a rise in sea levels and ultimately led to the flooding of the Black Sea. Prior to the flood, the Black Sea was a freshwater lake, known as the Lake of Maeotis. However, as the water levels began to rise, the Bosporus Strait, which connects the Black Sea to the Mediterranean, was breached, allowing salt water from the Mediterranean to flow into the Black Sea. The flooding of the Black Sea is believed to have occurred over the course of several decades, with the water levels gradually rising as the Bosporus Strait widened. As the water levels increased, the shoreline receded, and many settlements that had been built along the coast were submerged. The flooding of the Black Sea is thought to have had a significant impact on the people who lived in the region at the time. Many scholars believe that the flood may have contributed to the development of the Noah's Ark story, as well as other flood myths from around the world. In recent years, archaeologists have discovered evidence of ancient settlements that were submerged during the flood, including pottery, tools, and other artifacts. These discoveries have shed new light on the impact of the Great Flood of the Black Sea and have helped to further our understanding of this major event in human history. Many ancient cultures around the world have stories and legends that describe a great flood or deluge that destroyed the world or wiped out humanity. While the details of these stories vary widely, there are several common themes and possible explanations for why so many cultures have similar flood myths. One possible explanation is that many of these cultures lived in regions that were susceptible to flooding, such as river deltas or coastal areas. In these areas, floods were a regular occurrence and would have been a significant threat to the survival of communities. As a result, stories and legends about devastating floods may have been passed down through generations as a way to warn people about the dangers of living in these areas. Another possible explanation is that some of these flood myths may have been inspired by actual historical events, such as the previously mentioned flooding of the Black Sea or the Mesopotamian flood that is described in the Epic of Gilgamesh. In these cases, the memory of the flood may have been passed down through oral tradition, and over time, the details of the story may have been embellished or altered. Religious or spiritual beliefs may also have played a role in the development of flood myths. Many ancient cultures believed in powerful deities or spirits that controlled the natural world, and floods may have been seen as a punishment from the gods or a sign of divine intervention. In some cases, flood myths may have been used to explain the origins of the world or the nature of human existence. Finally, it's possible that the prevalence of flood stories is simply a coincidence or the result of cultural diffusion. As cultures interacted with each other through trade, migration, and other forms of exchange, stories and legends may have been shared and adapted, leading to the spread of flood stories across different regions and cultures. What did the ancient Sumerians say about the Great Flood? The ancient Sumerians, who lived in Mesopotamia around 4,000 years ago, are among the many cultures that have a flood story in their mythology. The Sumerian flood is recorded in several different texts, including the Epic of Gilgamesh and the Atrahasis epic. According to the Sumerian flood, the gods became angry with humanity for their disobedience and decided to send a flood to destroy all life on earth. The god Enki, who was sympathetic to humanity, warned a man named Ziusudra, also known as Utnapishtim, of the impending disaster and instructed him to build a large boat or ark to save himself, his family, and the animals. Ziusudra followed Enki's instructions and built the boat, filling it with animals and provisions. When the flood came, it lasted for 7 days and 7 nights, during which time the boat was tossed and turned by the raging waters. Eventually, the flood receded, and the boat came to rest on a mountain. Ziusudra and his family emerged from the boat, along with the animals, and were hailed as heroes for their survival. The gods, realizing their mistake in wiping out all life, granted Ziusudra and his wife immortality as a reward for their courage and wisdom. The Sumerian flood story shares many similarities with other flood myths from around the world, including the biblical story of Noah's Ark. It's possible that these stories are all based on an actual historical event. Regardless of their origins, flood stories continue to capture the imagination of people around the world and offer insights into the ways that ancient cultures sought to understand and explain the forces of nature and the mysteries of the universe.
Valley of the Golden Mummies. At the Baharia Oasis, a breathtaking discovery was made, an acropolis which contained various tombs of great importance. 105 mummies were found, all in idyllic condition for bodies so old. The area came to be known as the Valley of Golden Mummies, and it is theorized that there may be 10,000 mummies buried here, deep in the earth. Dr. Zahi Hawass discovered them about 380 kilometers from the pyramids. It was an accident when a guard's donkey's leg fell through a hole in the ground. They found gold glimmering beautifully down below and decided to excavate. Alongside the bodies, 4 tombs dating back to 330 BCE were found. Some mummies were gilded and obviously wealthy citizens, merchants, and their loved ones most likely. Some mummies were wrapped in linen, a more economic approach at mummification. It seems that sometimes whole families were laid in the same graves. Archaeologists found one female mummy's head laying on the stomach of a male mummy, assumed to have once been her husband. Further artifacts were found, such as gold, jewellery, pottery, coins, bracelets, rings, earrings, and all types of precious metals ranging from silver to bronze to gold and even ivory. The burial site included little clay statuettes of mourners. The point of these was for them to weep for the deceased for eternity and let them never be forgotten. Other statuettes were found of mothers who symbolized fertility. Empty vials were found, and the largest speculation is that these held tears for the loss of life. The tombs lacked any inscriptions. What started off as an accidental discovery of gold turned into an excavation of 105 mummies, which since its initial founding has become 200 mummies. This has revealed an incredible amount about Romanized mummification during this period, and the culture of the ancient Roman-influenced Egyptians. All this greatness occurred because a donkey took one wrong step and its leg fell through the sand. The fact that the most grandiose of discoveries are found by complete and utter accident makes one wonder how many more things lay beneath the ground, hidden right underneath our very feet. Human history pushed back 400,000 years by new discovery. Sometimes it's the smallest of changes that have the biggest ripple effect, and our whole perspective can shift ever so rapidly. History might seem as though it is stuck in the past, though in reality, history is reflected and dictated by the present. Everything we learn that has happened is susceptible to change with any new discovery. In this case, a single jawbone managed to rewrite our historical timeline by a staggering 400,000 years. A fossil of a lower jaw was uncovered in Ethiopia back in 2013. It has been dated to reveal that it is 2.8 million years old and holds important insights into how human jaws and teeth have developed throughout time. As far as we know, this jaw is the oldest piece of evidence we have from any species that belongs to the genus Homo, like us humans eventually came to be. So, this jaw has the potential to clue us in on just how the species within the genus Homo managed to evolve from their most primitive states all the way to us today, not only in the 21st century, but also back to when we became Homo sapiens at all. Up until this finding, the fossils that have been found to be any older than 2.5 million years old have been too poorly preserved to obtain any valuable data from them. This discovery marked an important turning point in archaeological research, in which we were able to see some of the earliest records we have of our lineage. Dr. William Kimball, the director of the Institute of Human Origins at Arizona State University, said, "The leady jaw helps narrow the evolutionary gap. It's thanks to the fossil, which represents a critical point in the timeline of human evolution, that we have a better understanding of this transitional period, even if it means correcting a lot of research that we already took for granted. This is a vastly noteworthy example of just how much change one small finding can bring to an entire discipline, subject of work, and species as a whole. Human evolution is perhaps one of the largest butterfly effects known to man. The small changes, the minor decisions, and the single mutations are still evident millennia later." Denisovan's DNA reveals mystery of human evolution. We have long had an interest in those that came before us, and while the Neanderthals are spoken of somewhat with frequency, the Denisovans were only found to have existed in 2008. This recent discovery of their ancient existence has led to many shifting details in our understanding of human evolution. They have made an appearance in our archaeological field and have left a trail of new research in their wake. Even following their finding in 2008, our timeline stood to be corrected, with us believing they existed just 50,000 years ago. As of 2015, however, we found that this number was far too limiting, and that, despite initial understandings, the Denisovans had been hanging around and walking the Earth for what could easily have been tens of thousands of years longer. This age correction was the result of speculations surrounding the true age of some fossils that were key in understanding this species. DNA from the species was tested, obtained from a tooth fossil found in a southwestern Siberian cave. From this tooth fossil, alongside the other somewhat limited data we have so far on this species, researchers have been able to conclude that the Denisovans were more accurately walking the Earth a staggering 110,000 years ago. The director and co-author of the study, Svante Parbo from the Planck Institute for Evolutionary Anthropology, said in an interview with CS Monitor, "We got the first glimpse of genetic variation in Denisovans, and it turns out they have quite a bit of variation, about as much as Neanderthals." The tooth fossils looked at were determined to be from two separate people, with one of them having been alive a significant length of time before the other. This was determined by the missing mutations within the genes, giving us further insight into where these specific genes may have come from. Despite some people's theories, the Neanderthals and Denisovans, whilst similar, are very distinct species. Their resemblance is incredible, with the differences between their species only being evident after very closely analysing the original fossils. This intense level of examination that is required is what allowed the Denisovans to go undetected for so long.
So, what do you make of the Great Flood? Be sure to leave your questions and answers in the comments section below and help us to grow this community while working to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.